Hey everybody, welcome to Muse Paint Bar. We're going to be taking you step by step through our lovely painting, Dandelion Blooms. Now feel free to follow along or customize it however you like. All the supplies you need are linked in the description below. Now sit back, relax, and grab some liquid inspiration. Happy painting! All right, so for Dandelion Blooms, we got some watercolor effect going on. So we're gonna be watering down a lot of paint. But before we get into all the steps, we need to set up our station. We have our lovely canvas here, or whatever you are working on. We also wanna have our paint. So today I am working with white, blue, this fluorescent violet, yellow, green, and red. Now, if you don't have any of these colors, you should be able to make any color with your primary. So if you're looking to make more of a purple, you're going to need your red, blue, and white. If you're looking to make a green, you're going to want to add your blue and yellow together. You are also going to want to grab something to put some water in so that you can keep your brushes nice and fresh. Grab some paper towels, just in case you get a little messy, and to kind of dab your brushes off on as you take them out of your water can. And lastly, you're going to want some paper plates. This helps us to mix up our colors in a separate area from our main palette. First thing, we need to mix up our background colors. Feel free to follow along, or you can change up your background colors however you like. Now I'm going to use a bigger brush to mix this up. It's better to mix more paint than you need than not enough and have to, figure out that color again later. Our first color that we're going to be mixing up is like a medium blue shade. I'm going to start off by taking a nice little scoop of white paint, putting it on my plate, and then I'm going to grab a nice big scoop of blue and add it to that white scoop and mix it up. All right, first color done. Before we mix our next color, make sure you rinse off your brush. Next color that we are going to be mixing up is a teal or an aqua, something that's a little bit more on the green side. So I'm going to start off by taking a little dash of white, a dash of blue, and then a dash of green. If you don't have green, just add a little bit of yellow into this and it'll help it get to that green color. All right, so we should have our blue and we should have our teal. Then we're going to clean off our brush again to mix up one more color. Our last color is going to be like a light magenta. I'm going to grab just a very, very small dash of white and then a big scoop of that fluorescent violet, right? Again, if you do not have this color, you can make it something similar using red and blue, mostly red and a little bit of blue. So these are my three colors for my background. Now, here comes the fun part. We're actually going to start painting on our canvas. Now, this is going to be watercolor style. So to do this, we need to water down our paints. Let's start with our purple. So all I need is a little bit of purple paint, and then I'm going to use a slightly clean brush because I don't want to add any more paint to this. Slightly clean brush, I'm going to add a whole bunch of water from my water can. Feel free to get clean water if you prefer that. You want to water it down a lot, enough to where if you tilt your plate, it's going to run right over. So once you have this color all watered down, I want you to take your brush, right? And then you're going to dab it on your paper towel, get most of that off, right? And take little bits of this at a time. I'm actually going to switch to a more round brush. If you don't have a round brush, like this one, it's called a filbert brush, then you can just stick with that bigger brush. So just getting a little bit of this at a time, maybe even taking a couple dabs off on my paper towel. And then we're just going to kind of swish it around in a couple different places. You should be able to see right through that paint. Very watercolor-esque. Now we don't want it to run down our canvas a whole bunch. So again, you don't want a lot on your brush. Get a little bit, pat it off on a paper towel, and then you can start painting. If it's not see-through, you're going to want to add more water. Now it's up to you how you want to texturize this. You can use, that circular motion, or you can use bigger brush strokes to make it a little bit more smooth. Once you're ready for your next color, clean off your brush, and we're going to repeat the same steps. You're going to grab a little bit of the paint and a bunch of water, almost like a milk-like consistency, very runny. Take that, dab it off on your paper towel, and use a little bit at a time and put it wherever you like. Now, once you start getting to the other colors that it's next to, you may see that they'll blend together to get some colors in between. Now it's time for that last color, which was that teal. Now, once you're done with your background, you're going to want to wait a little bit for it to dry. So the next step is going to be really, really fun. We're actually going to be doing some splatter paint. Now for this, we're going to create a yellow and water it down the same way we did with the watercolor background, but instead of just applying it with the brush, we're going to flick it to create little specks everywhere. Now I recommend taking a slightly smaller brush, and we're going to be mixing up equal parts of yellow and white and then watering that down. Now once we have our yellow watered down, we're ready to start splatting. All I'm going to do is load up my brush and just tap the back of it to splatter it down. Now my mic cut off here. We're actually going to talk about starting our leaves and stems. I recommend grabbing a small round pointy brush to paint these in. To mix up this color, we're going to be grabbing 1 scoop of yellow, 1 scoop of green, and a small dash of white. And we should get something around here. So first thing, I'm going to want to locate where my 3 flowers are going to be. I got 1 flower up here, 1 flower over to the left, and 1 flower closer to the bottom on the right. From those points, we're going to draw our stems down to meet at 1 point, which will be right down at the bottom in the center. Once we have our main stems, we're going to add little flicks everywhere to do a bunch of little blades of grass. Next up, we're going to be drawing the very big leaves that are down at the bottom. To paint these, we're first going to find the center of the leaves. And then we're going to add a bunch of points by doing a bunch of U shapes. Once we have the basic shape for our leaves down, we're going to go ahead and fill those in with that same color. Next up, we're going to be adding some shadows and some highlights to our stems and leaves. First, I'm going to start with the shadows. For the shadows, I'm going to be using our straight green. It's going to be pretty dark, so we don't need to add any black to it. This, again, I recommend using a small round pointy brush. Our shadows are going to be going down the center of our leaves and also in a couple of places in our stems. I'm also going to be using our shadow color to define the outside edge of our leaves. Now for your highlight, I'm just going to be adding some more white and more yellow to the green we mixed up for the base of our stem and leaves. We don't have too many highlights, so be very sparse when you throw this color in. All right, next step, we're going to be thinking about our flowers. We have 2 yellow flowers and 1 white flower. I recommend using a larger pointy brush, something that's a little thicker. We're going to be mixing up some yellow and some white paint equal parts. To paint these in, I'm going to find the center point of my flower, start on the outside edges, and just flick it in towards the center. Now we're going to add some dimension to our flower by adding a little bit of orange in the middle. Grab just a tiny bit of red paint on your brush and mix it into your yellow paint to make some orange. While the yellow paint is still wet, you're going to add just a couple little dabs in the center. Now our white flower is going to be a little different. Instead of filling the whole thing in, the center of our flower is going to be showing our background. So as we paint this in, we're going to go around the outside edge of our flower and leave the center untouched. Now to give it that very fluffy dandelion feel, we're going to be putting a couple of dots along the outside edge. If you want to get real fancy, you know whenever you blow a dandelion and all the little white pieces go flying out into the air? Feel free to also sprinkle those throughout your painting. Next, we're going to be using some dark green to get a flower bud and also the little bits of green that are underneath the flower. And for the flower bud, it's going to be like the shape of a teardrop. To add a little bit of greenery that is underneath our flowers, we're just going to start under the flower and flick out. Feel free to also add some highlights to our flower bud and the little green bits underneath your flower. Now that was our last and final step of creating our Dandelion Blooms painting. But before you clean up, make sure you sign that painting. I recommend using a small round pointy brush in a color of your choosing and put that signature on there in case you sell it for millions. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial on painting Dandelion Blooms. If you enjoyed your time, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment down below. We'll see you again next time.